Well, hello again from Mirador Television, broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, East Sussex, in the United Kingdom. Lots of going on behind the scenes this morning, backwards and forwards, testing this and testing that. I hope it all works, but if not, bear with us as we poddle along and bring you at least a giggle of our discomfort. What we've got at the moment, though, is a secret. And the secret is all about this man, Stephen Catlin, who died at the weekend and left a big hole in governance and the understanding of local party politics, non-party politics, independence, that will be hard to fill. Stephen was mayor of this town 2 years ago. He was an independent councillor on both the district council and on the local council. He worked tirelessly for the community. But what he did do, he put his mouth where his trousers were, and he laid out various projects that helped the image of the town, floral projects, but he could be seen, mayor or not mayor, with a trowel, making sure that some of the spaces that were populated with flowers were well kept, well maintained, well trimmed, and open to public view. One of his big projects was the secret garden of Lewes. And it was his brainchild. He looked after it. And it is now apparently getting a bit tatty because Stephen is no longer there to tend it. And shame on the so-called people, the people who call themselves green in this town, if they let it go. And in fact, I put up on social media that it should be as a tribute to this remarkable man called Catlin's Garden. And the more I think about it, perhaps we could call it Catlin's Secret Garden, because that's what he called it and what we called it. What was it all about? Well, let's take a look, because we do have something to remember him by. It is, if it all works, we should see it up here. Of course, it never turns out to be where it's supposed to be. So let's, if you'll bear with me, while I do my usual thing and have to look for this thing. But if necessary, we'll go a different route to bring it to you, because it's really well worthwhile taking a look to see what this remarkable man did. And it's... it really is much chagrin on my part that this never seems to work for me. But nonetheless, it is here somewhere, and I think what we'll do is we'll let's go to where we know that it is lurking, and because I'm absolutely determined this morning that we're not really going to be confounded by nonsense. Well, while I find this, I'm going to show you what this remarkable man was, and aha, here we go. I found it at last, when I didn't expect to.
Hello, here we are at what was Pinwell Lane. It ran up through here to the top of the High Street. It became closed off some years ago, and this land is now called Manorial Waste. And we have to thank Every, the great Lewis ironmaster, for bringing the gateway from the Grey Friars Franciscan Priory here. This is the only bit that remains. The Premier Inn is now on the site and had been a railway station before. This is the much vaunted Secret Garden. Until just a few years ago, it was covered in weeds, brambles, and goodness knows what else. I suggested to the friends of Lewis that it would be better, considering its location behind this ancient gateway, if we could cultivate it a bit. And aided by Jane Tyra and Gillian Ross, I've managed to turn it into this. I'm somewhat embarrassed to say a lot of people keep coming to take photos of it. And I can see there's an overturned pot I must rescue. But here we are. This is one of the better examples of the fruits of my labours. And I hope it gives you pleasure. Thank you. This, the family burial place of William Edwin and Anne Baxter, and dear little Emily in amongst the undergrowth somewhere. The hollyhocks will be butchered this week, but it is rather nice, the bizarre colours matching exactly how Victorian colour printing was done. But it will get a tidy up this week, I promise. Because it'll be me that does it. Oh, and the bees. I'm so pleased to see bees and butterflies around here. There is one feeding. Isn't that wonderful? It's one bee I've saved. It's easy to get lost in the middle of this. See, zinnias, nearly 3 foot tall. They're only supposed to grow a foot. Must have been a good horse. So much colour. Well, I don't think death should be sombre. It should always be a bit bright and jolly. We'll just move this. Let the colour radiate. That's it. It looks good from the other end, don't it? Like all shows, backstage is not so pretty. Mind the bricks behind you.
Well, there you are. That's Stephen Catlin's Secret Garden. And I think that we're calling upon the local authorities, whether that be the district or the town, to remember this remarkable man by naming it Catlin's Secret Garden. But on top of that, it must be maintained. If it is let go, what tragedy, particularly since we seem to have governance by the Greens, what a tragedy to let the really first-class Green project go. In fact, I would hang my head in shame if I was member of that party and let that happen. So we are saying to the council, and just in case they wonder, is this has got tremendous support on social media. Tremendous support. So it's up to you to do something about it. And we shall keep on at you until you do. Yeah, we shall. Now, what's all the fuss about is with Stephen Catlin. He was a remarkable man, and he was an independent member, which I approve. I approve of independence. Don't like these people who are tied to a political party. They get all tied up in their political parties and forget why they're there. They forget that they're there to represent the people of this town, no matter what colour they may be. But Stephen was a fearless speaker out, if you like, about what he felt was wrong and needed addressing locally. And here is an example of what he behaved as a councillor and as an independent, and how he cared passionately for this town.
There is a big tendency at the moment of central and local government not to give out much information about anything, using either the Data Protection Act, but also extending it to we aren't allowed to give out that information. Stephen Catlin, Catlin's Corner, is concerned about this lack of information from our various government levels. Stephen?
The Hole in the Wall Cafe in the Grange Gardens in Lewes is still open at weekends because it just serves through a hole in the wall. What is not open at weekends is the public toilet facility in Grange Gardens. Now, it has been said to me, it's a logistical reason. It cannot be logistical. The Court Road toilets are open.
Well, that's not helpful, is it? The gremlins are at work again this morning, but let's see whether we can actually get that to work again. I have no idea why it's.
There's a big tendency at the moment of central and local government not to give out much information about anything, using either the Data Protection Act, but also extending it to we aren't allowed to give out that information. Stephen Catlin, Catlin's Corner, is concerned about this lack of information from our various government levels. Stephen?
The Hole in the Wall Cafe in the Grange Gardens in Lewes is still open at weekends because it just serves through a hole in the wall. What is not open at weekends is the public toilet facility in Grange Gardens. Now, it has been said to me, it's a logistical reason. It cannot be logistical. The Court Road toilets are open every day. The Market Tower toilets are open every day. What logistics in that? And of course, the government has said that public toilets must be open as usual. So, on Monday evening, I wrote to the leader of Lewes District Council, asking for an explanation, querying logistics, and saying a lot of people are, forgive the pun, inconvenienced by this. And really, if we are serving the public, can we not do it with a better will than we're showing at the moment? Well, Lewes District Council, of course, is a law unto itself, or as we think locally, it's a law unto Eastbourne Borough Council. And I've had no reply, not even a standard acknowledgement. Now, if you treat the people who pay your wages with contempt, you must expect them to regard you in the same light. So I'm not going to give up on this. He will get a reminder on Monday, as will the district councillor I copied into the email. Because what is the point of having leaders if there's no one to follow them? We'll see. But the other subject, which is getting more interesting in the need for information, and we all need information of the right sort with the situation we are in at the moment. And I raised a query with Keith Glazier, the leader of East Sussex County Council. One hears reports of COVID-19 cases in schools in Eastbourne. One hears results from schools and colleges in Brighton and Hove, a different authority, but nonetheless, one hears. But what one doesn't hear is any information about the incidence of outbreaks of the virus in schools and colleges in Lewes. Now, I've heard from a parent that at one school in Lewes, Year 2 has been put in isolation. They're all sent home. But the siblings of Year 2, who are in other years, are still attending school. I've asked for an explanation, and then I learned this morning that half a year at primary school has been put in isolation. Which year? I don't know. But the grandparent of a child who is so suffering has phoned Public Health England. Oh no, that's confidential, we can't tell you. They have phoned the Education Department and been told, no, I'm sorry, that's confidential information. And the school answers with the same response. It is not private, it is not confidential. These people, if they're in isolation, we need to know, not their names of course, but year so-and-so at primary school, half the year has been put in isolation. Which year? Which age group? Because one age group is much more infectious than another. So, I have had an acknowledgement from Keith Glazier's PA at the county, thanking me for my inquiry. They will look into it and come back to me. Well, we can hold them to that, but at least they've acknowledged it. I was going to say Lewes District can't even put pen to paper, but they can't even put finger to the keyboard. We'll see. We must have information. What is the incidence in Lewes? We know that yet last night the rate of infection in Lewes District, not the town, the district, was 91 in 100,000. But I see in my mind that this lockdown will not cease on December the 2nd. There are so many spikes around the country. Thanet, where my son lives, 500 per 100,000. Darwin in Lancashire, over 600 per 100,000. And yet, people in Darwin were having a wedding party in a furniture factory and 29 people were arrested. Party guests had come from Scotland, London and Manchester. Why are these certain areas more prone to the infection than others? Is it because, one could say, poorer areas? What is it? Why? Or do elements of society in those areas have a far greater disregard than we do elsewhere in the country? I ask the question. I don't have the answers. And if the government does, well, they've probably spun it out as something else.
Thanks, Stephen. Catlin's Corner with Stephen Catlin. I'm Keith Hayes. Tiddle pip.
Well, that was Catlin's Corner. It is from a couple of years ago, obviously, but a sample of the fearless way in which Stephen Catlin took on the establishment as an independent councillor, and is once again is leaving a huge gap. But the point of this morning was to show you his pet project, the Secret Garden, Lewis's Secret Garden, and if as a green outfit, either the district or the town council do not keep up that project, and if they've got any sense of propriety whatsoever, name it after him in his memory, then what are they doing there under a misnomer? Right? Arrogance. Let's see. Okay, it is 9:54. It has reached 16 degrees. It's probably going to reach 20 by about 2 o'clock this afternoon. And it is a nice day out there, but it is a bit breezy. And that's why I'm wearing this as opposed to my favorite trilby, because when I come in first thing in the morning, the children will go hurtling down the street, particularly since I'm now using my famous little scooter. The old Parkinson's makes it difficult for me to walk now. So I've got this as an aid, as it were, to get me from point A to point B. And as a super little thing it is, too. It only goes about 6 miles an hour, but that's okay. I don't mind. I tootle along, and I'm able to get to places that I couldn't for the last, probably 8 or 10 months. Now, we're going to take another break, and then we're going to come back and a bold new experiment, because we're going to go to Chichester to see whether we can actually have Mirador Chichester with Mark Rattray. So we'll see you in a short period of time. And just for the moment, let us say again, as we often do, and so we should, is toodle, 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 pip.